understanding of inclusion is it is the act of bringing together people from different backgrounds, people from different parts of the world into one social structure and making sure that they're not only physically there, but that their voices, their opinions are being heard, are being respected and are being taken seriously.
I understand inclusion as this principle that looks to ensure that historically oppressed groups get to have a voice in order to create a greater society. Then for me, inclusion is about social justice, but it's also about common good and community.
I generally understand inclusion to mean making the people who are supposed to be affected by an outcome of a given circumstances, either policy or administrative procedures, to get involved from at the initiation of the creation of what's supposed to happen in the future.
So I think the institutions have confused the concept of inclusion with diversity. We see few people of color or few non-binary people in an institution and we think that's inclusion. And that confusion on diversity has overshadowed the true meaning of inclusion in my perspective. Inclusion for me is about the political and social influence and value of historically and socially and structurally marginalized epistemologies.
I see that ISS is putting a lot of efforts into inclusion and into diversity, and I've seen like with the social action committees and stuff like that are calling for different causes. I see that actually the institution is trying so hard to make sure that students can have an opinion and an agency to choose how to be included. However, I think this remains like a lot of students might take a step back, and that can be because they feel like they're insecure about their English language skills, they're insecure about their preconceived cultural conceptions that other people might see as backwards or are seen as not Western enough. So I think that a lot of people might not feel included at ISS even if they try to be.
For me, education is a tool to create a more fair society and a more equitable society and to develop these solidarity bonds within communities. And these inclusivity policies are actually being guided by the meritocratic principle in which you just award some individuals in order to benefit them so they can advance in their professional careers in a really individualistic way.
I have seen that there are various student committees where students meet to discuss what ISS is supposed to do, but I consider that at this stage to be like a recognition. But how are those voices actually being enforced, and how ISS can ensure that other vulnerable groups, for example, people with learning difficulties, either through hearing or visual, can get included into the general overall policy of ISS, into the programming?
I think ISS is extremely diverse. Is it inclusive? Not necessarily. And I'll back it up by giving examples again from when we were studying here. ISS still falls under the larger structure of academia, which requires you to function in a particular way, which requires you to follow particular Harvard methods or these methods or that method of referencing. So what it does is like, we'll include you, but let us first teach you our ways, and then you can be included in our space.
One is looking at the existing policy, looking at the existing programs, and looking at how other people are doing it, and looking at what is lacking and how to bring that into a real existence or real frame of the ISS.
I feel that ISS should change their admission criteria in order to not only ensure that the students that come here advance in their professional academic careers in an individual way, but also to ensure that they are really committed with the development of their communities and with the development of the issues of their people.
During the orientation week, the first orientation week, maybe the dialogue between new students from new parts of the world can be more strong and can be more institutionalized and more structuralized to make sure that people actually get to know each other. And third of all, making sure that the creation of safe spaces is on the ground and holding people who run those safe spaces accountable and making sure that as many students can join as much as possible.
Well, it's a much larger structural change where the structures have to accept the, again, talking about epistemological differences of people that are coming from these diverse backgrounds, these diverse lived realities. And my suggestion would be, can you normalize a trans rector of ISS with all their glory, with all their identical understanding, and not because they are trans person, but as an academic, they are just brilliant and they can run ISS as a rector.